Okay, so just know, so you got that there. And so I'm going to just briefly read from the introduction she sent me. So Teresa Thomas is a networking expert and author of Win-Win Networking, Your Guidebook for Confident and Effective Connections, and also her book, 50 Fun Things, Enjoy the Small Things. She catalyzes meaningful connections for people, possibilities, and purpose. And she's helped thousands of people to connect and grow through her programs, presentations, and her books. In 2019, she was named Women in Business Champion, whoa, through the Small Business Administration of Minnesota. I can get my Wisconsin accent back there for a minute. And as Dynamic Connector is one of AARP's 50 over 50 exemplary leaders. Teresa leads a private LinkedIn group for women in networking and took on the leadership of it in 2007. The group, by the way, has been around since 2002. And she grew that group from 200 to 2,000. Now is closing in on 8,000. So at the onset of the pandemic, she's become more strategic with the group and evolved it from a local membership-based networking group to an international community of almost 8,000. And the group is recognized as one of the most engaged groups in all of LinkedIn land. And she now trains other facilitators to lead using her Win-Win Connects programs and tools. So support their own groups and organizations. As for myself, I am a social media and especially LinkedIn consultant, do individual training, one-to-one, and then also through group training. And at the end, I'll talk just briefly about my brand new workshop that's coming up. Okay, so back to, now we're going back. Teresa, take it away.
All right, well, welcome. I'm so excited to see a lot of familiar faces, people I've known for many years and people that I'm just getting to know today. That's one of the beautiful things about networking, is that it opens up all kinds of possibilities that we wouldn't have imagined. And one of those ways can be through LinkedIn groups. And so this is me a water cooler conversation. And what I mean by that is we want you to contribute to the conversation as well. So the way I have my screen set up right now, I'm not able to see the chat, but Joyce will be monitoring that and helping me to see if there are questions to respond to, or maybe you have insights to share, or you have a different experience than what we're sharing as best practices. So we talked about having this be a water cooler conversation where we learn together and have it be interactive. So yes, this is also networking, and you've started doing that in the chat, which is fantastic that Joyce will send that to us. And I've got guiding points that will move us forward to cover the different aspects of what we talked about in maximizing LinkedIn groups. And but it will be a free-flowing conversation where you can ask questions and contribute. And I hope that makes sense. And so the ways that you can participate, we've already started doing that in the chat. And when you introduced yourself, you did that on video. And I highly encourage you to come on video if you have a question or something you'd like to share, because that's another way we get to know you. And this will be recorded and shared to Joyce's YouTube page at a later date. So we just really encourage that. It's not like a workshop that you go to where you're dissuaded from side conversations. Here, it's okay. It's all part of networking. And our goals for you today are that we want you to learn some new ways to make the most of LinkedIn groups and gain tools so you can be more effective at it. Some of you might be brand new to using LinkedIn groups. Some of you may have been using them for a long time and feel like you're pretty adept at it and just want to polish it up. Others of you might want to be more intentional about how you're doing it. Maybe it feels scattered and you're not really sure how to make the most of that. And others of you might be leading a LinkedIn group, or perhaps you are considering leading a LinkedIn group. So my hope is that after today, you'll have a stronger sense of where you fit and getting those tools that will help you in that way. And then, of course, I always have a goal of wanting you to feel energized and motivated by the connections and the conversations that we have together. And I'm going to step back and say, okay, so why are we having this conversation? Well, Kim Julien, who is here, is a past guest expert with Joyce, and Kim had reached out to Joyce and said, you know, since Joyce is a LinkedIn expert and Teresa connects people to move forward on their goals and the lives they want personally and professionally, there's a real nice synergy. And I will say that my favorite tool is LinkedIn. And I will share things from my perspective, and I'm still learning, but I can share things that I've tried, things that were frustrating, things I want to do differently, so that you can learn from my mistakes and from the things that have worked well. And as Joyce said, because LinkedIn had named our group as one of their most engaged groups, now caveat, I have no idea how many groups they told that to, but we're part of a select group then that's part of a LinkedIn group for people that lead LinkedIn groups. And what's really cool about that is we get to see behind the scenes what they're getting ready to roll out, or things they're trying or changing, and they request input from us. Having said that, the LinkedIn group itself, they are learning as well, right? So we're learning together, they're learning, and it's just really about figuring out what works for us. My second reason for doing this is because I run the Women in Networking LinkedIn group, I want to make it even better. There are things that I know could be better, and I tested out different ways with some volunteers in our group. And on a side note, I've considered starting a group for Win-Win Connects in general, because the information I share is not always just for women. And so that would be a broader audience for our facilitators and our participants. So I'm figuring things out myself, and I will be transparent about that. So I'm not the be all end all. I will just share from my perspective. And then Joyce, you got excited when we talked about having this be our conversation topic. And will you share a little bit about that?
Well, I guess the main thing is I want to tell just a very brief story. In 2008, I joined Facebook. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm on this other platform, but it's kind of boring. Oh yeah, I think that's LinkedIn. And then I found the Toastmasters International group. And it really was through a LinkedIn group that I fell in love with LinkedIn.
Oh,
Because I became connected with people, not just in the USA, but all over the world, and met a guy who I kind of outside of that group became his mentor. He was in Dubai. And I did so much with him as a leadership mentor, just through email, We didn't even Skype. There wasn't Zoom then. And it just was such a powerful experience. I have met some of those people in person at Toastmasters conventions. So I'm a huge fan of groups, but then I kind of dropped away from it. And so what I've noticed is I'm in Facebook on a couple of groups, kind of active. And I was hoping one of the things we could talk about just briefly is kind of the trends in LinkedIn groups and how they're different and similar to Facebook groups. Because I have a hunch more people on this call, well, with the exception maybe the folks from your group, the Win-Win group, do more with Facebook groups than LinkedIn groups. So can you just talk about that for just a bit?
I'd be happy to. And you're right. LinkedIn groups have a reputation for kind of fizzling out. Less people are using them, or if they set up a group, they are not necessarily active in posting or engaging or commenting on each other's posts. So that's a big hurdle to overcome. And the reason I'm drawn to it is for similar reasons of what you shared, Joyce, is I have made exceptional connections, specifically through the LinkedIn group that I lead, but also through other LinkedIn groups where somebody posts something that is very insightful and relates to my work, and it creates an instant sense of camaraderie and connection because of that shared interest. I also love it because I'm more comfortable and familiar with LinkedIn. On Facebook, I sometimes feel scattered, and the boundaries are less clear about what's personal and professional. And I like the straightforwardness about LinkedIn. So that's why I appreciate it. And Joyce and I had been talking about, well, if LinkedIn if groups aren't as popular or they're declining, then why have a LinkedIn group? And one of my initial thoughts is be the outstanding one in the small pond, right? If other people are leaving or they're not having active groups and yours is phenomenal, yours is going to be the group that people are going to gravitate to and participate in. Now, we're still
I'm
figuring
gonna
that
just
out.
stop just for a second to address Laura's point.
Oh,
And it was actually, Laura, in 2017 that Microsoft purchased LinkedIn, just for historical clarification. And we don't, maybe you can, to you, it's gotten weirder and more problematic. I mean, I hear that too. But one thing that's, I would agree with you now, for example, say you want to send out a LinkedIn connection to somebody. You can only send a note with that connection for how does that go? 5 to 10 notes per month, folks, to somebody you want to connect with. Unless you're in a group though, which can go there because you can send them, I think, through a group. Maybe you know more about that. I think Teresa and I do. But I think I just want to clarify that, yes, LinkedIn is sort of nickel and diming people. So there's that element. It's not perfect. There's things to quibble about. But I want to keep the conversation focused on groups. I guess that's the only other thing I want to say to get back to our where we're at. Go ahead, Teresa.
yeah,
Yes.
you're right. And with any group, there's going to be a lot of things that you're going to learn today that can apply to another group. But we're specifically talking about LinkedIn, since that's what I'm most familiar with. And I have started other groups that were through Facebook, and for me, they felt quickly overwhelming. And that's just my personality and how I do my work. LinkedIn just feels like it puts things into a neater container, if you will, about what I'm sharing professionally and what I'm responding to professionally and that sort of thing. And thank you for noticing the comments that are in the chat.
I'll keep track of those.
That's fantastic. And Kim says, yes, be the big fish in the red ocean. So like, okay, Kim's a perfect example. Kim doing feng shui and energy readings and angel readings, most people in her field would be showing up on Facebook. Now, Kim also is on Facebook and very active and has a group. But I would suspect that for Kim, being in LinkedIn and being active probably makes her stand out. Those are just some assumptions. Kim, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking people still find you, and there's less people like you that are using LinkedIn actively.
Yeah, it's a different, it's definitely, I like the aspect like you talked about, being more professional. And of course, Joyce has helped me with my profile immensely. I still have a little bit of homework to do on that, but there's so many different things that you can do with LinkedIn that are just, I find it very powerful. And it's also a place I think people go when they're looking to check you out as far as, like your experience and your, organizations and different things like that. I think they're more likely to go to LinkedIn for that piece of things, other than your website, than they are for to do that on Facebook, right?
Yeah. And yeah, it elevates even the credibility. Like you said, they can look into your background and what you've done in the past more so than they might be able to.
Just really quick thought. So Teresa, would this be maybe a good opportunity to show folks your the group? I mean, to do a screen share, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but to show them what your LinkedIn group looks like, the one that we've been discussing that several people here are members of.
Yeah, you read my mind.
Oh, good.
Okay, can you see this group here?
First, can you show us how to find our groups on LinkedIn? Like, would you just go to the home page? If you don't mind, just click on home for me. I feel like you're LinkedIn teacher.
I will say I am not the greatest person for navigating online.
Okay, so this is,
so
okay, I'll take the wheel just for a minute, literally.
So you're the expert in LinkedIn.
Yeah, just click on home. If you click on home, I'm going to show you something cool.
You want me? Okay, I will click home.
All right, see, no, just trust me with this. Okay, then scroll down.
All right.
Scroll down, just slowly. And then see, there's pages. Watch, folks. On the left, see, there's her pages. Keep going down. Keep going down. There's recent activities, maybe events she's been to, and then groups. See this, folks? Here's her groups. So I don't know, can you, offhand, can you pin a group in, Teresa, in LinkedIn, like you can pin a group on for your homepage on Facebook? Do you know about that?
I'm not sure. I have a feeling I was able to do something like that, or it might just be because I'm mostly in the women in
Yeah, I was
networking
going to
group
say it might
most.
be somewhat derived by your activity in it.
Yeah, but I'll say that this is good, because there will be little notes that pop up, ideas as we look at this. So one thought is, think about the groups you're in, and we're going to get to this a little bit later, and why you are in the group, and what does it say to you, to your colleagues, to your prospective clients or employers. And you want to make sure that the groups you're in are aligned with who you are and how you want to be known. So, and you'll see that there's lots of different types of names that people have for groups. I would say if you are starting a group, the more you can have the name of the group, just be really straightforward about what the group is about, the better, and that'll make it easier for people to find you. And there is a limit. Google has, LinkedIn has a limit to how many groups you can join at a time. So sometimes I will get requests from people to be in our group, and then I go to add them, and it said this person had too many requests. So be selective. Go through every now and then and see if the groups you're in still matter. Now, I'm going to be, just like I said, very transparent. There are groups here that I haven't participated in for a long time, that I might pop into or out of when I'm wanting to kind of learn what's going on in a particular industry, say with HR leaders, like what issues are they dealing with? What are they bringing up at their conferences? Then there's also, women's entrepreneur groups, because they relate a lot to women in networking. So the groups that I go in and use the most are the ones where there are conversations happening and I'm learning something. So from tips, that Step into the Spotlight is an exceptional, this one, they do an exceptional job running their group, and I could stand to learn a lot from them.
That's helpful.
Yeah, they're very active.
Why don't you go into the women in networking group if you don't mind, and
Yep.
where you're going to go. But I wanted to make sure people knew how to find their groups. Okay, yay. So here's right away, look how we know how old this group is. Well, this says 2008. Is it 2008 or 2002?
The predecessor started in 2002. And then I took it on, and then needed to submit the LLC and all that. So that happened in 2000. But yeah, the group was created, like the LinkedIn group was created in 2008. I don't even know when LinkedIn started. And maybe that was when
started in 2003. It started the year before Facebook. It started in 2003.
It was 5 years after LinkedIn started, and groups were new. And at that time, we had 20 people in the LinkedIn group and really had no idea what we were doing with it. And then as the in-person membership, we used to have membership as part of our group with dues. And now it's just putting on good events for people to connect and move forward on their goals. Then it grew to 200. When the pandemic hit, it became time to take social media seriously and not have it just be this side thing, and to really think about what types of connections am I making and fostering for people? How am I providing value? So sharing networking tips and introducing people to each other when I could. And it was also a way of staying relevant and learning a whole another side of networking that most people had been just dabbling in prior to this time. So we got strategic, myself and some volunteers who are active in the group, and we've tried a few different things since then. We did set it up as a private group. Some of you might have open groups, and there's probably something to be said for that. I like it being a private group. I like to have as little spam as possible, and like to limit the amount of times that just people post only about themselves, and really encourage more posts that are useful and foster communication and learning and connection with each other.
So Teresa, then, would a group is a private group. If I were to go into that search box and search for groups for women networking or something like that,
Yeah.
would that mean that women in networking would not appear in a search on LinkedIn, just out of curiosity?
The way that I have it set up is it will show up in search, but not just anybody can be in the group. So if somebody clicks on it, they request access.
Okay.
And I will say, so now the group is now 7 shy from 8,000. It's grown quickly, and that's part of the challenge, is keeping up with making it relevant and time considerations. Like, it's harder for us to moderate what's happening. And so in the past, what we did was we would each day have a different conversation prompt that would apply to everybody in the group and be useful, and make it so that people could only respond to the prompt. Then we put that aside once we were able to start pinning our posts with tips and that type of thing on the top. But there are still some frustrations, and this is part of the learning, is when you're a member of a group, if you're someone that just constantly posts about your own stuff, but you don't even respond to other people's comments on your things or comments on other people's things, it quickly leaves a sour taste. So, and as a group manager, it's frustrating, because I want lots of people in the group to be able to talk with each other. And I know it can be a turnoff if you look at a group and you just see, the same person posting about
Do
this
you
stuff.
then reach out of curiosity? Because honestly, what you're saying to that person, I want to finish my sentence, sorry.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the reasons I've been turned off from other groups I've been in, is this constant talking and PRing and blah, blah, blah. So because you can always just block that person. I mean, you could 86 them to use a 12-step term.
Yeah.
You could do that, but that's kind of harsh. So do you have a protocol where you approach that person and say, hey, Joyce, I see you're always posting about your workshops and stuff, but you don't really comment on other people's, remember the rules are that you're supposed to do that. How do you handle that?
Well, that's a part of the evolution as well. So in the beginning, yes, it was personalized notes and saying, hey, a reminder, this is what the group is about. We encourage you to do this. With nearly 8,000, I could spend all my time just managing the group, and that's not revenue producing. It's just, it's a tool that supports the connections and the conversations that I'm able to leverage, so that people know who I am as a presenter and as a trainer and an author. But it can quickly become overwhelming. So in full transparency, I've very often been tempted to go back to the way of just having a single post each day that people respond to, and making it so that it's just not a free-for-all for posts. And I have heard from a few people who have used to be very active in the group when we had it set up that way, and then when we switched, they just said, oh, it's too much information now. So I'm taking all that in and figuring out what.
I see you have pending posts there at 24. Do you have to approve each post before it can go up? What does that mean to have a pending?
So that's another thing that we used to do. We used to go through the pending posts, and that number just keeps going. Like so on the back end, some things we can do are, if you have a group, you can set up filters. So one filter that LinkedIn has is to automatically filter out posts that include a link. So when people join, we say, like, it's better to not post something with a link. If you want to share a link, put it in the comment, because otherwise LinkedIn will filter that out. And then the thing about pending posts is it takes a lot of even emotional energy, because it makes it so that we have to think about, well, is this post valid and useful, or is it spam, or and do people want to hear about this, or is it too personal or political, and so just taking that out has been a relief. But the more I talk about this, the more I'm feeling like going back to having a certain type of post each day. So for example, we used to do on Fridays where people could share about their upcoming events.
Yeah, could you scroll down just a little bit and show us maybe a sample post or two?
Yeah.
That
So
here's like
here-
what you were talking about. Here's
Yeah.
this is kind of it's a pin, a post. So people,
Yeah,
welcome.
so this is really
Okay.
nice. When you
Yeah,
have a group, any of the admins can pin a post. So now that I'm training other facilitators, some of them who are here today, shout out to the group. Once they get set up in their training and they feel like, okay, they get the group and what they can post about, then they will be able to go in and share. And then that will also take some conversation to make sure it's cohesive and that we have a plan.
I'm glad you brought them up because Teresa, I think that's one of the reasons to keep the group from overwhelming you as the founder of it, let's say the main person. You have these trusted administrators, right? Who have all the rights practically that you have as the super, are you called the super admin? I know in a page that's what it's called, but there's a founding person
Owner.
who owns it. Maybe you're the owner of the group.
I'm owner, and then I had given equal Sherry Benefield that volunteered for a long
Right.
time to keep the LinkedIn
So
growing.
they can do monitoring and stuff for you and like allow new people to join or things like that, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So yeah, so I can pin post. There's also a way where you can recommend this post. So see here.
Oh, look.
So if I recommend this post, since we're doing the conversation right now, I don't think I'll do it because
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
then I could recommend it, and it said it will notify up to all the members that accept posts to receive
Can
it.
you only do that because you're an admin or could
Right.
anybody?
Oh
do
yeah, yeah. Only admins.
Okay. Yeah.
Are we getting questions from the group at all?
Not yet. I don't, well, Kim didn't make this helpful observation a few minutes back. She noticed in the settings, when you're in the group, you can turn on, choose whether group members in your extended network can message you. So that would be like, I was messaging the folks last night to remind them to come, the one who RSVP'd for that. So she said, if you turn that on, that would allow more messages back and forth.
Okay.
That was a good observation. That's all I've seen so far. I think I'm trying to keep track of the chat.
Great. And then it's nice, it will show you analytics. With this being summer, I have not been as active in the LinkedIn group lately, but there have been times where it's been very active and I will get reports that particular networking tips went over really, really well, or something was very engaging and got a lot of people talking with each other. What I really like is you can see Toby Miles is a win-win networking facilitator in Pennsylvania. And so she's able to post right into the group if she would like. And then this is where the other facilitators, when they're ready, will be able to have that admin access. So, and you can also see, like, yes, I do post things because it's our group where I'm saying we have an event coming up, because it's people are in our group for a reason. They want to learn how to network, how to feel more confident, how to make better connections. So it makes sense that I'm posting those opportunities. I do some tips that I do is I try to, whenever possible, tag people in the group, right? So that they also are connected, and try to include things that are conversational. Now I'm going to see if I can, after I do events, what I really like to do is go in and post where I tag everybody who is at an event. So I don't know that I'll be able to do that today unless I had the full list of who's here, but I would go in and I would share how I would share a question like, what is your biggest takeaway from today, and tag everybody so that all of you could immediately find each other and talk with each other. I was going to try to find an example of that. But I can't remember how to find only my posts, but oh, here, posts. Oh, no. Well, as I'm looking through this, okay, so this is showing some what this is doing right now is something I don't do. It's LinkedIn. If they think that you're not using your group much and they want you to be more active, they'll just say, hey, here's some people you might want to share their information in the group. But I haven't found a need to do that. See,
I have
is
a
there anything
question.
else people want to
Yeah.
see? Yeah.
Okay, Jennifer, you had a question? Go ahead.
So am I understanding you correctly that right now, if I were a member of the group, I could post in there, but you're thinking of taking it so that others can't post, but that you can only go in and comment?
Yeah, I'm thinking about doing that. And so, I mean, it does mean we'd probably lose a lot of people in the group, but that might be okay if it's people. I'd rather have less people that find value and are engaged and see it as a way to connect versus it being just seen as a bulletin board. One thing I don't like is LinkedIn makes it too easy for somebody to post something and then share it to all the groups without actually going into the groups themselves. And you can tell when that happens.
Oh, say that one more time so I understand what people, this sounds curious. So they can post to the group without, oh, I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you put
I mean,
up
you
a
have to be
post
in the group.
and it says, do you want to share this to your group? Is that right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. You can click off the groups you want to share a post to, and then it's clear when somebody's done that because they haven't actually gone in and commented on anything else. They haven't made it specific to the group. They haven't even responded maybe to some people that have commented on what they've said. So are there other things that anyone would like to see within the group? I'm realizing time has gone by super fast and there are a lot of things.
Yeah, we're at 2:24, but I think if people have to drop off, I completely understand. But that's a really interesting, a bit of a conundrum in terms of, do you want to allow people to share things, but maybe you get so overwhelmed? Perhaps I guess a person could communicate directly with you and say, Teresa, I was wondering if you could, maybe it's not just, but someone who's been involved in the group, who's come in, I know I can't really put this post up directly, but would you help me configure a way for you to talk about it on my behalf? Or maybe they could just put a comment then on a post, and that ties into what they would have wanted to have said in their own post. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And yeah, that moderation part is the most challenging because less so these days, but it used to be that I would get many requests every day from people asking me to share stuff, and I just couldn't. And also, whenever I'd post something, people would expect it to be from me about Win-Win Connects or Win-Win Networking, and if it wasn't, it caused a lot of confusion. So I always encourage the person who is making the post to be the one that shares it. And when we had it set up to have topics each week, we tried to do it so that there's always a topic that you could
see, that seems like a compromise. That's not quite the word I want, but rather than just randomly say, oh, I'll come to my LinkedIn workshop or something, then they would speak to that topic, but they would still be allowed to create a post, or would they have to just comment? I hate to belabor this, but
there's lots of different ways you could set it up, but yeah, and I want to make sure, since we're coming to
are there any other questions or comments? Thank you, Jennifer, for yours, because we do have just a few minutes left. I feel like we could talk about this for another hour, but obviously we don't.
Yeah, there's a whole lot that could be said. And again, I'm just sharing my experience and what it's been like. And so if anyone's thinking about starting a group, just some things to be aware of. For example, if I were to change this to a public group, once you change it to a public group, you can't go back to it being a private group. We can filter people. So I haven't done that. Oh, I see Sherilyn is raising her hand.
Yeah, my question is, so when, say I go, besides I'm looking at your group, say there's another group that I decide I want to go be a part of, what they do and how they do it, it could be completely different than how you're operating.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Every group is going to have a very different flavor. And I'm glad you brought that up because earlier I talked about being really clear about what groups you're connecting with and why.
Yeah.
And so what I suggest is thinking about, well, maybe you want to connect with colleagues in your industry and to learn and feel like you're really on top of things. Maybe you are wanting to connect with prospective clients and kind of get to know what are their needs, how can you better serve them? Or maybe you feel kind of lonely being a solo entrepreneur and you want to connect with other entrepreneurs, you know, for that motivation and support. For our group, it's really about people who, well, for the women in networking group, it's specifically for women who want to be more intentional and more effective and confident in their networking and showing up in an authentic way and making meaningful connection and kind of shaking up the perception that a lot of people have of networking as being transactional, but seeing it as how it can be transformational. Once you know why you're networking, everything else, including finding the right groups, becomes clear.
Yeah, no, the attitude is build relationships, everything else falls into place.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I put. Yeah. I do want to get to Mary's question, which Mary Gusesberg, which is better, repost or share when you wish to add someone's info to your own page? Okay, so I'm trying to parse this out. So what I think you're probably talking about, and help me if I'm wrong, Mary, is say you see a really interesting post and when you want that post to essentially be on your page, if you will, you're reposting it. But a way to take that to another level would be to feature that. So if you, in the LinkedIn profile, you may have heard of featuring, and if you have a question, stick around afterwards and I'll share my screen and show you. Then you can so a repost can be featured. But whether you comment or whether, meaning you just go, oh, that was fascinating idea, I also would like to do ABC. So you wanted to say something of value. But the point is either a comment or a repost that activity will show up as part of the activities section of your profile. So I say which is better in the sense of giving more energy to that person with the original post. Oh, heck, commenting is better because I really do believe it boosts it more. Plus, when you comment, more people will see your comment. In other words, other commenters will see your comment. So it really fosters the networking concept. But the repost is pretty slick because of that featuring thing.
And again, like the more clear you can be about why you're networking on LinkedIn and how you want to connect and be seen, then that'll help inform what you comment on, what you repost, because anything you comment on and repost is a reflection on what you're like to work with. And so, yeah, so being intentional is always a good thing. I know I'm not the facilitator, but I can't help but, be mindful of time. Joyce, would you like to say? I will be happy to stay on for questions, but for those that have to, hop off, are there closing comments that you would like to make or announcements, Joyce, since this is
I just wanted to mention my workshop, which is, I mentioned earlier in the chat, I have a workshop on Friday with 2 openings. It's called Enhance Your LinkedIn Profile, and up to 4 people can participate and tell me advance 3 parts of their profile they want me to give a deep dive analysis of, but the other people can chime in too. And we had one in June that was super successful. So it's a new offering. I'm starting I have it now every second Friday of the month, no matter if it's 1 person or 4 people, plus me. So I just thought I'd give a plug for that. We don't have our August speaker totally confirmed, so I don't really have anything to say about that yet. But I don't know if you have anything else you want to say in closing. And again, if people have questions or anything you have a question about, in fact, Mary, I can show you if you want to stay for a minute how to do that featuring. Did you have another question, Jennifer?
I have a question, yeah. So if I join a group, and you just said that groups can be different, is the group upfront about, okay, this is how this group operates? Or how do you find out?
There's a description, right?
There's an about section for every group. And so that's what you would want.
Like Facebook in that way, okay.
Yeah. It's pretty clear.
So and you can put your rules in there as well. And then in case people are wondering, I'm assuming some people are, oh, thank you, Kim, for putting in the link to Wynn's LinkedIn group. I don't pay for LinkedIn at this point. And I I many years ago did a free trial, but I'm able to do a whole lot with LinkedIn without having a paid account. And I know some people, especially if you're, you know, working in recruitment and that type of thing, yeah, you wanna be able to have that access, but they are adding more features, they are adding more pay to play stuff. But at this time, I've been figuring out ways to really use it that work well for me. And for me, one of the ways is through
I'd say the main,
managing a
personally,
LinkedIn group.
what I would miss if I had a free account is being able to send notes to people when I send the invite. I would not want to be restricted to, at the most, 10 notes in a month. I could send out 10 invitations in a week. So it depends on how, you're right, how you're using LinkedIn. If you're in a group with people, then it looks like, as Kim said, it's depending on the settings, it's pretty easy to send an invite. But I'm a big advocate of notes. Not everybody thinks they're that important. I also like to know who's been looking at me. And if you pay to LinkedIn, even the $40 minimum, you will see 90 days back who's looked at you, unless they're hiding, because that's still an option. So,
Well, thank you, Teresa, for saying that, because that was a question I had is, do I really need to pay the 30? Is it 30 or 40?
40 now. No,
Yeah,
I don't think you do, Jennifer. No, not the way you're
Yeah.
using it, because I see you on it a lot. You are very niched in where you're going, so I don't think you would need it. No.
Good.
That's a really, I'm glad you brought that up.
And for those of you thinking about having a group, it is a really good way for you to show your expertise, to role model how you show up as a leader and how you help others show up in their best selves with whatever you do with your work. So I really like it. I suggest, if you're somebody that would find that valuable, just to give it a lot of thought. Like don't just like hop in and create a group to create a group, but think about how you would use it. And then maybe be in some other groups for a while first, see what you like and you don't like, what you would do differently. And you may not even need to start your own group. Maybe it's becoming an admin in a group, you know, like if you're somebody who is willing to help moderate conversations or to help let in people in the group, and you consistently are providing valuable information that makes the group only better, then you may be able to have administrative access to have that higher level.
By the way, this has been wonderful. Let's give her a big round of applause. We still have most of our folks here. It's very exciting. I'm going to get back to our full screen and stop the recording. Let me just do that here and go back to view gallery. And I see that note from you, Laura, about it being only $5 a month. That maybe there's certain populations of people, veterans, who knows?
No, it's not $5 a month. It's 5 invitations per month.
5 invitations. Oh, I
with
see.
notes. You
I've
can
seen
invite as
anywhere
many as
from
you
5
want,
to
but
10.
yeah, it's 5 if
Okay.
if you're a freebie.
Yeah, okay, I'll take your word for it. Okay, so I think that's really all I have for now. Thank you for that clarification, Laura. Yeah, it was so fun. And you know, when I moved here a little personal story. I moved here in 1995 from Wisconsin. And Mary, stick around and I can show you that. And Teresa, maybe you can too, just for a minute. When I moved here in 1995, I was 46 years old and I lived in Wisconsin all my life. And I talked with someone, they say, "Where are you from?" I said, "Well, let's get the accent, Wisconsin." And they say, "Oh, I figured you were from Minnesota or Wisconsin by the accent." And I go, "What accent? I have an accent?" Well, then I see the movie Fargo. Remember the movie Fargo? Oh my God, that was my accent. I see what they're
Minnesotan. Do you speak Minnesotan?
Yeah.
I got the book Minnesotan for Dummies from Prairie Home Companion one time.
Yeah, oh yeah. But
It was very funny.
The Minnesota people would appreciate that.
My South Dakota sister speaks that way too now.
I think it's part of the charm. You know, I mean, geez, don't you think we should talk like where we're from? But let me just do something really fast. I want to show people this. Okay, so I want to go over into my profile to the point about reposting. So when you, okay, I'm going to share my screen really quick. So this is just informal, totally separate from my beautiful Teresa's presentation. Okay, so here's, you see, I'll see my LinkedIn profile, hopefully with a red sweater. So what I'm talking about with featured, and by the way, everybody go look at my LinkedIn and feed my ego. All right, so if I want to add something, see right here to my LinkedIn, see add a post. So if I had reposted something, it makes it eligible. I don't have anything right handy here. Well, this actually Jackie's was, I think. So anytime this came from her original post and I reposted it, it made it eligible, so to speak, to be featured. To the point Mary brought up about putting something on your page, I presume you mean on your profile. So this is a LinkedIn profile. The company page is this, again, it's just like Facebook that way. So this is my company page here. And then my profile is the one that I was just looking at. So I just wanted, that's all. I just want to click. I wanted to show you how to do that, Mary, because you had asked. So I hope that helps. Yeah. So Teresa, so everybody else, feel free to leave anytime or ask any more questions. I just wanted you to do me a little favor, Teresa, in a minute, but it has nothing to do with this program. So thanks, everybody. I'll be
Thank
reaching out to
you.
those of you I don't already know. This will be
This was
fun.
awesome.
Bye. Bye,
We'll
everybody.
be connecting soon.
Okay, cool. Boy, that worked out really neat. Teresa, that was just like you said, it could be a conversation.
Well, yeah, and there's so
Yeah.
much that can be shared.
By the way, you're still
Here's
recording.
my favor to ask of you.
Oh,
I'm gonna go ahead. Did you have something else to share, Laura, before you left?
you just want
You're
us
still
to know that you're still
recording.
recording.
I'm sorry?
You're still recording.
Oh, I thought I turned it off.
Nope.
Oh, how did I miss?
All right.
Okay.